Today in cannabis news, amid equity disputes, a bill to legalize cannabis in the state of Delaware dies. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas criticizes the federal government's cannabis policy as more episodic than coherent. And after legislators refuse to take action, Mexico's Supreme Court overturns the federal prohibition of cannabis. It's Wednesday, June 30th, and this is your TRICHOMES Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, because of the differences between legislators about social equity funds, an attempt to legalize cannabis in the state of Delaware has been put on hold for the year. Representative Edward Osienski, the measure's sponsor, says they were taken back when they learned that their measure's insertion of a new fund to foster involvement in the sector by localities most affected by prohibition would necessitate the approval of 75% of lawmakers on the floor. Earlier this month, Representative Osienski tried to address the issue with an addendum filed just before the bill was set to be debated in the chamber, but was met with opposition from leaders of the Black Caucus, whose support would be crucial considering the large threshold. The bill was subsequently taken off the agenda, with Osienski promising that it would be brought back after legislators had time to work on modifications, which never transpired. "I'm sorry that it didn't happen this year, but I think it's going to be a better bill when it's amended and submitted in 2022, Osienski told the Delaware New Journal.
Next up, one of the most conservative U.S. Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas, criticized the federal government's conflicting strategy to cannabis regulation this week, hinting at the potential unconstitutionality of blanket federal prohibition. Justice Thomas explicitly mentioned the 2005 case of Gonzalez v. Reich, in which the court concluded that the federal government could use its jurisdiction to govern interstate business to uphold prohibitions on cannabis growing that occurred entirely throughout California. This contradictory and unstable state of affairs strains basic principles of federalism and conceals traps for the unwary, Thomas said, adding that though federal law still flatly forbids the interstate possession, cultivation, or distribution of marijuana, the government, post-Reich, has sent mixed signals on its views. Furthermore, Thomas pointed out that Congress has consistently adopted a budget bill rider prohibiting the Justice Department from interfering with state-licensed medicinal cannabis operations. Given all these developments, one can certainly understand why an ordinary person might think that the federal government has retreated from its once absolute ban on marijuana, Thomas said, adding that in other words, petitioners have found that the government's willingness to often look the other way on marijuana is more episodic than coherent.
And last up, Mexico's Supreme Court this week issued a judgment to terminate federal cannabis criminalization on its own, almost 3 years after ruling that the country's cannabis prohibition is unconstitutional. This came after politicians failed to enact a legalization measure within a crucial time frame. The legislature was directed to make an updated policy by the court in 2018. However, despite the fact that both congressional floors passed reformation measures in varied incarnations and needed many deadline delays, by the conclusion of the latest session, it was not able to meet that directive on schedule. Possession and cultivation of cannabis for individual consumption will be legalized as a result of the 8-3 vote. The Ministry of Health would retain some regulating control over individual growing, but consumers would no longer have to go through a more cumbersome legal process to acquire protections. This ruling, according to activists, emphasizes the importance of lawmakers passing a bill quickly to develop a comprehensive program of legalized and controlled commerce. They want to make sure that a sector is created that is fair, tackles the negative effects of prohibition on specific localities, and encourages individual liberty.
That was today's Buzz. Thanks for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss these stories and others, visit TRICHOMES.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Careers in Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation, wherever you get your podcasts. For TRICHOMES.com, I'm David Fortin.
And I'm Devin Liao. Have a great day.